Welcome back to Drip Feed, water talk straight from the source. I'm Georgie, and today we're talking all about rain. We all know it rains a lot in Scotland. We call it dreich most of the time, and we usually just get on with it. But what happens when it rains more heavily, too quickly, and where does it go? What do we do with it? I am joined today by Annelise McMillan, who works with our flooding team at Scottish Water. And I am also joined by hopefully well-kent face, the ginger gardener from Beech Grove Garden. So Annelise, tell us why is flooding becoming a problem in Scotland?
Flooding's becoming an issue, a bigger issue in Scotland because we're seeing changes to the way the rainfall patterns happen. So particularly in spring, summer and autumn, you're seeing short, sharp storm durations where actually the volume of water in some instances is significantly higher than we have seen in years gone by. Particularly in urban areas, you find that water all drains to the combined sewer system.
Just pause you there. What's a combined sewer system then?
So the combined sewer system is, if you think about your house and your toilet, your kitchen sink, your washing machine, that's the foul element of your house.
Is that in like toilet water and
toilet
stuff?
Water when you flush your toilet, when your shower or bath drains through your plug hole or your washing machine drains, and all of that soap goes. So that's the foul element from your house, and it all goes to wastewater treatment works to be treated. What a lot of people don't know and understand is that all of the roof water, all of the water that falls on the roof of your house, as well as the water that falls within, it's called the curtilage of your property. So where your boundary fence stops from your property to the public pavement, all of that drains to the combined sewer as well. And that then overwhelms the drainage system because it wasn't built for these sharp, intense rainfall events that we're having, and it means then that water, the sewer can't cope, so that water either comes out and discharges to the environment through a stormwater overflow, or in the worst case instances, it floods people's homes through backing up through their toilet, or the manhole pops and that sewage then travels over the ground and pollutes the people's houses and gardens and the local community.
So, I don't know about you, Brian, but, we describe Scotland's weather as dreich, but more and more now we're talking about it battering down outside, or it's torrential rain, or other terms that we kind of use on air. I've noticed it. It's like, in one day we can get 4 seasons, but sometimes there's the rainfall. You look outside and you think, oh my good grief, where the hell did that come from? Yeah. So, do you notice that in the gardens? You're out in the garden all the time. Do you notice that?
Yeah, as you say, we're in Scotland, so we're used to being wet, but I can't remember a time where the rain came down as heavy and as quickly as it is now. It just feels like the last few years, isn't it? We could go out with our rain jackets or whatever, and we could still work. But literally on Monday, they had just passed. About 20, 25 minutes, I've never seen anything like it. Just straight down, big sized chunks of blobs of rain coming down. You could see the old drains at Scone Palace. The drainage system there was built in the 1800s. It coped, but only just. I've never seen so much water coming down. And then for us gardeners, the damage then that's doing to the soil and whatnot, make it all run off if we didn't have our plants on it and our grass there and keeping it all bound together. It is causing a bit of havoc now.
I think everybody looks at climate change as something that we have to deal with in 10, 15, 20 years in the future. Yeah. Actually, this is what we're seeing right now, is the impacts of climate change, and we can physically see that our weather patterns are changing, and significantly so.
Mm.
And I think the word that I seem to have noticed a wee bit lately is extremes.
Yes.
And that sounds extreme using that word, but I think the last year was just the perfect example. We just had that long spell of dry weather. And in the winter there, God, I've been gardening since 1992. I don't think I've ever been so wet.
It feels like it's rained since January, non-stop at the moment. That's the way it feels.
And then you have that balance. So Dundee last year was a really good example where we had water scarcity. So we were really watching the levels in the reservoir so as we could keep customers in supply for water. But it was also hit by a couple of rain events that caused extreme flooding during the summer period. So that is within the same catchment. You're actually seeing those two different sides and the extreme impacts that can have.
So a lot of folk are going to say, well, you guys at Scottish Water are the ones that deal with the water and the wastewater, so it's your problem. What are you doing about it? So, Annelise, what are we doing about it?
Oh, I could talk for hours about this one, Georgie, but this is where it starts to get really complicated.
Let's keep it simple.
Yep.
Let's keep it simple.
Flooding is not just one organisation's responsibility. We all have a part to play as individuals, as corporate organisations, as local authorities, as business. Everybody can play a small part in actually helping to reduce the flood risk right across the country. As Scottish Water, we are investing significantly in our wastewater infrastructure over the next 20-25 years.
My understanding is it's billions.
Yes. It is billions. It's billions that we're spending, not just to look at look at reducing flooding and flood risk, Georgie, but all of these things are absolutely linked. But even with the billions that we are spending, we would only make a very small dent in the actual flooding that would happen. Mm-hmm. And this is where we need all organisations and all individuals to come together and make small changes, because the smallest change within your property or within your garden, if everybody was to make that one small change, can you imagine how that would all add up to the benefit of the wider community?
So Scottish Water's kind of launched a new campaign to raise awareness. I think the TV advert is "Soak Up the Rain" is what we're knowing. But for me sitting here, I'm going to say, well, what difference can I make? What difference is it going to make? Just me, one person with a wee garden, or I might have a balcony, or whatever. I mean, what difference is it going to make if I take any action?
So I can give you a personal example on that one. And actually, if I look at my house as an example, when we moved into the house that we're in just now, we had a tarmac driveway and we have a back garden that's full of concrete and slabs. So there is absolutely nowhere for that water to go. There is nowhere for that water to be stored. So what happens is when that water falls on my house, it runs straight into the combined sewer. Straight into the combined sewer. There is absolutely nothing there to help slow the flow, to hold that water back, or to soak up that rain and actually to use that rain for the right purpose. So one of the things that we're planning on doing within our own home this year is to look at what we can do in the back garden. So we're looking at bringing back some grass. But over and above that, we're looking to maybe saw our downpipe off so as it doesn't connect to the combined sewer anymore. Take that through a water butt. What a water butt does is it stores water, so it means that you can use that water to water your garden when it's dry over the summer. Fingers crossed.
Optimistic.
Yeah. Or even to wash your car. Mm-hmm. So there are things that you can do with that water butt, and there is an overflow that once your water butt is totally full, it will trickle back into the combined sewer. Mm-hmm. But you are playing a significant part just by adding a water butt to your property.
And Brian, Beech Grove, it is everyone's average garden, Beech Grove. That's the idea behind the programme. It probably looks a lot prettier than my garden, but Beech Grove Garden is kind of bringing together all the things that you can do in the garden. And I know that we've talked about this, and I think that you've kind of taken some action in Beech Grove Garden as well. And talked about it on telly.
Yeah, like you say, the beach, I mean, it's a beautiful garden, but it's just a series of TV sets, all the little scenarios of folks' backs gardens.
Backstage secrets, folks.
But you're right, that there was definitely a shift in culture. I don't know whether we became more richer, but I mean, I can remember growing up and everybody's front garden had a wee veg plot in it, growing your own veg. I don't know, maybe veg has become more ready available now. And I guess folk have just lost interest a wee bit in gardens. So it wasn't true any malice of that, but as you say, we've just concreted them over because nobody can be bothered doing gardening. And I think I'm also coming out of that era where my kids I've been the taxi driver and I love gardening. I must admit, I've not kept on top of my own garden for the last few while, so I could understand why folk have done it. But you are right, now we're seeing the results of all that water then running into the drainage system. So I read about this a few years ago. It was creating a rain garden when I started to understand how much of a problem this was actually becoming. And last year was the first opportunity I got to do it up at Beechgrove. So, I mean, it is simple, it sounds complicated, but it was brilliant fun. So we've got this conservatory up at Beechgrove. You simply measure the roof, find out the area of your roof. And
is that the roof of your house?
The roof of your house.
Right.
Again, you could use a shed, a garage. Doesn't have to be the roof of your house. Anything you can make as simple as you say. Every little bit seems to make a difference now, which I'm learning, which is brilliant. You're right. The first thing we did was put in a water butt. So that might sound daft to water your garden. Well, your water butt's going to be full. But if you've got a whole load of containers, the water never gets quite into those containers. So you've always got that ready supply. I've got 2 water butts in my own garden, and that keeps my glass house going and all the little containers out in my patio, that sort of thing.
Get him a glass house.
And it's just a wee thing, 6-pack, but it keeps me going, keeps me out of trouble. And then you're right. Instead of that, once it's full and it just goes back into the drainage system, at the bottom, we created a wee rill. So it's a rill's just a wee, you could argue just like an open pipe or a nice bit of slab, which then takes the water to a wee part of your garden. So to create a rain garden, you need to be about 5 metres away or so for the building because we didn't want to damage the foundations of your building. And then all we did was create this sort of shallow area. So 20% of whatever area you're harvesting the rain water of, that's the size of what your rain garden needs to be. You only have to dig down roughly about 15 centimetres and make this sort of shallow basin, whatever area you need to be. And then you use the excess on the sides just to make that sort of bun to create that sort of basin. Make sure you do maybe a wee slight incline just so the water's running away down to the bottom. Put a wee sort of lip at the bottom so that any excess water can run out. But it's been absolutely fascinating watching it on Beechgrove. So you see the water coming in. Once it's filled up the water butt, it goes into the rill and it puddles in this rain garden. But then it's not taking the water away from the system, but it's just slowing everything down. Mm-hmm. And the plants that are in it, they're just a selection of plants that can cope with, we're in Scotland, so dry and wet weather conditions. And they've had their first winter. I was up at Beechgrove the other week and I was checking them over and they're all grown away quite happily. So it's amazing, that little thing. I'm doing one in my own garden. I haven't worked out where I'm doing it yet, but I'm going to be doing one in my own garden. It's been a brilliant little thing to do.
That sounds brilliant. So it's basically like creating a pond in your garden.
Yeah. But again,
a really shallow depth, Georgie, and I think that's the key, is that it's not super deep. So it doesn't, if you have young children, it doesn't create issues there. Yes. It is very much you're treating and dealing with the water as close to where it's fallen as possible with rain gardens and with all sustainable urban drainage systems. And I think that is a key point, is the closer where the rain falls, we can deal with it, the shallower and the closer to the surface these solutions can be.
So that little thing that you've got in your garden, that can translate into bigger things in the community. So what would good like in a perfect I don't know, rain-ready community?
Well, there are lots of things that Scottish Water are already doing, Georgie, to try and build that in, and we've developed the partnership with Edinburgh and the Lothians, and we've delivered the meadow. Is it Craigleith? I think we've delivered the meadows in, and actually that is nature doing exactly what it's supposed to do and slowing that flow of surface water. So we also have another project that's currently underway at the moment in the East End of Glasgow that is a pure surface water scheme, where what we're doing in that instance is removing all of the roads water that currently drains to the combined sewer, as well, and taking that to what is called a surface water drainage basin, attenuating that flow and then taking the
What
water.
does attenuating mean?
Holding it back. Sorry. Holding that flow back and then taking it directly to the natural environment in a water course. So what that's doing is it's reducing flooding, known sewer flooding in an area. It's creating a new natural environment that once it's in and it's embedded, will start to create a new community asset once it's fully in and built. And you may have seen the video on Scottish Water socials in the last week or so about the water voles and the translocation of the water voles. And once that pond has been built, those voles will then be relocated back into that natural environment. So that's the kind of thing that we are doing. It's not always just about upsizing the sewers to be bigger and bigger and bigger. It is about looking at what we can do and how we can tie in with the natural environment.
And without switching to making it a gardening podcast, I mean, that's part of a whole massive cycle that what you guys are creating, because, we're trying to get away from using chemicals as well in our gardens. You're going to be increasing the biodiversity, all the wildlife out there, all the pollinators that could say come into all the wildlife that could come into our garden and say eat some of the beasties that we've been traditionally spraying for years. So this is all having a massive beneficial to the whole community, to the whole environment, really.
Yeah,
I think it's brilliant.
So say somebody's got a garden at the moment and has got a big paved patio, or they're looking to put a patio in, or they're looking to put a new driveway in. I know that you're quite passionate about that kind of thing as well, aren't you, Brian, about what materials we use? Should we be looking at that?
Yeah, I mean, the ones where the water don't get through, they're the ones that we're trying to avoid. So all the ones you said, your tarmac, your concrete slabs, your monoblocks even. But it's not to say you can't use them. So for the likes of a driveway, you could probably create maybe, two lines for the tyres of your car to go on, so you're not getting stuck, that sort of thing. But then I guess if the rest, it can be like a gravel, etc. Which again, if I get it, not everybody has time to do gardening or is passionate as garden. Then at least the likes of a gravel can help suppress weeds. But I assume then that the water's going to be able to flow through.
Yes.
And again, you can still plant up your gravels. Especially for a driveway, you can be planting low-growing plants like thyme. So I assume the tyres drive over the thyme, you're going to get that lovely release of fragrance up into the air as well. It's amazing little tricks. I'll pass credit to the RHS. They've got some brilliant information on their website about how to do these and what plants that you can use just to, brighten up our world as well. I think we're getting a bit too, this is me moving away, my own personal thing, but we are getting too much concrete now around us. It's amazing what a bit of plants can do to our mental health and all that jazz.
Yeah, I know you said that for a long time we kind of fell out of favour with gardening, but I think with during lockdown with COVID, gardens became people's havens, and I think there's kind of much more of an upsurge on that and growing things. And all over TikTok you see, take a cutting of this and suddenly it grows into a tree if you put it in a glass of water and you can watch it. If people are starting to think about falling back in love with their gardens and are maybe thinking about making plans or doing, for you, what does a good garden look like in thinking about rain and drainage and stuff like that? What does a good garden look like?
The perfect garden. I'm still trying to make it in my own yet, and I've been doing it for 30 odd years. I think for me, you've got to get it for your needs. So if I'm finding a lot of people, especially young families, are really keen on growing veg. So, even simple raised beds so the kids could actually get up to that level, etc. And again, your water butt would be just perfect. Your plants actually do better from being given a drink, being irrigated by the rainwater than what they do from the tap water, especially, like your blueberries and maybe your rhododendrons, etc., if you've got them in containers. So having that nearby, great fun for the kids to go along and water all the veg, all the radishes, the lettuces that they're all sowing.
I saw something recently, and it was a real kid-friendly thing where they were taking those kind of big containers of milk and turning them upside down, sealing the bottom, keeping the lid on in the bottom and cutting the tops off and just tying them onto fences and things, and it catches the rainwater as well. I mean, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to do little things. And I think, Annelise, is that the message that we are trying to drive with the awareness campaign? Is it, we've all got a responsibility. It's a team effort, if you want to take it, and we can all do those little bits, and right down to little kids who can really get involved. Is that the message we are trying to get across?
That's absolutely the message that we're trying to get across, Georgie, is it's not just about the big investment. It's not just about spending lots of money. There are some really great resources on the Scottish Water H2O website as well about things that you can actually get your children really involved in and making, and that will exactly like that, like the milk carton with the top cut off. You can also, as we've done in with my kids when they were younger, did the exact same thing but planted sunflowers in those milk pots, and actually it's up the right way, the rain falls on it, and if you've got a couple that are there for storage, then you've automatically got the water to water them with as well, rather than it
and even
being dry.
And even little ponds. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. You could just get a large pot. Make sure it's got no holes in the bottom. Lots of stones, so it can keep them safe for the young kids, etc. But so your frogs and whatever can get in and out like a wee ramp. But I mean, I'm quite sure a few of them dotted around the garden would also help. Sort of just, again, as you say, I'm learning every little bit helps. That just stops it from running into that sewage system.
Yeah. And even if you can't fully stop it from running into the sewage system, if you can hold it back and slow that flow, that has a huge impact. I don't think people understand. If you look in the centre of Glasgow at the moment and the work that's happening in there, actually that plays a really significant part on our sewer system, because there is nowhere else for that water to go right in the heart of Glasgow city centre. But actually, as what the work that the council and their contractors have delivered is they've delivered those plants and they've delivered those rain gardens, but they've also provided what is called an attenuation tank. So it allows the water...
Another technical term.
It's basically just the water being held in those tanks before it goes back into the combined sewer. And these are all done in partnership. So it is Scottish Water and Glasgow City Council working together in that instance, in the same way as it was in the Meadow in Edinburgh.
So, I mean, all these things sound great, but, people listening or watching will be thinking, so what's the easiest win for me? What's the easiest win I can make that isn't going to cost any money? I mean, we all know that folk are struggling with budgets at the moment. And if I was, okay, I'm going to hold my hands up. Plants come to me to die. They really do. My garden has rewilded. If I was to go out and make just one cheap change that isn't going to cost me any money, it's not going to require loads of effort from me because I don't have a lot of time. Hence the reason why we've got the weeds. But what would be the easiest win for me to make? Brian, you might, from a garden point of view.
Try and stick with your grass. I think that's the best. Again, I'm looking at it from a biodiversity point of view as well. And again, you don't have to cut your grass even every week. I've got 2 lawns. So the front garden, I cut it every 3 weeks. So it gets cut every 3 weeks at its highest setting. So it never looks like a bowling green, like we used to keep our lawns back in the day. You'll be amazed at all the wildflowers that are hidden in your lawn. You know, that you go to a bowling green or whatever, and you know it's beautiful, perfect grass. There's no weeds in there whatsoever, but you've got clovers and self-heals and all sorts that just now, I mean, my lawn's just a wee tapestry of colour. And as I say, I cut it every 3 weeks, so it's at its highest setting. So it can look a wee bit rough and unkempt, but I get away with it. All I would say is, just so it doesn't look completely abandoned, just do a normal strip around the edge so it looks like a picture frame. You could even cut a wee meandering path through it, just so it looks like a wee alpine meadow. But, you know, we're all winning. You know, the water can soak into the grass, but at the same time, it's no eating up our precious time, you know.
And if gardening's your passion, you know, and you've got a bit of money to spend, or you're thinking about a makeover of the garden, what would you suggest for
the
people?
whole system? The whole system. Get the rain garden in, get the water butts fitted. You could get some really nice ornament. I know some of them look quite industrial, these big water tubs. If you've got a good budget, gosh, they could look like clay pots and all that. They could really look quite fancy. But, you know, get 1, 2, even 3 water butts in, so you're constantly irrigating your whole garden with them. You can even get a nice wee tank, so you could have aquatics. So after the water butt, it goes into this lovely tank, so you could get some water plants in there. And then, as I say, get it into that rain garden, that little sump, that little basin. Again, they can be equally as colourful, beautiful irises, rhodesias, the meadow geraniums, thalictrums. They all survive in that kind of environment. They're used to those sort of wet ground, and as well as going dry as well. But go for it, didn't hold back.
And if you're determined to have that patio or the driveway, it's about looking at maybe permeable options.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that then, Annelise.
There are permeable options available. They do tend to be a bit more expensive than the traditional non-permeable things, but the world itself is moving on, and there are more and more products that are coming out, like permeable resins, and grass will always be your best permeable surface in your garden, but gravels, and you can actually get your stones coated with a permeable resin as well, which maybe makes it a bit easier for you, but we would always try and ask people to steer clear of monoblocks and paving and things like AstroTurf, and know that it looks really nice. I do know, and I know that time is always a factor, but it really is about nature isn't perfect, so I don't think our gardens need to be either.
Could you have a balance? Like, if you do have monoblocks, could you sort of remove pockets?
Or take your monoblock to your grass and actually have it
so it's running into the grass.
So it's running into the grass. Yeah. So we're not saying absolutely no to non-permeable surfaces, but there will be things that you can do in your garden to help it drain to the areas where it will still allow you to have an entertainment space.
So I was involved in a small project that Scottish Water did in Prestwick, where
That's
they did
really exciting.
Yeah, they put in these planters.
SUDS planters.
Which they look like lovely plant pots with lovely flowers and plants growing out the top. But underneath there's a tank, I suppose you call it. And some of them I've seen on social media look absolutely amazing, ornamental. And also people are making their own homemade versions of it with...
Yes.
What's it like, where you've got those enclosures for your rubbish bins, and they create this rain garden on the top, and underneath it, out of things, what do you call those?
Railway sleepers.
Yes, and things like that,
yeah.
Underneath, and covered in plastic, and the rain falls into that as well. So I'm really excited about going back to Prestwick and all those houses that we did that on with for a pilot project and seeing what they look like now, because I just saw them when they were just, planted up.
Yeah, the SUDS planters they really do help, and they look fabulous.
So the downpipe just is disconnected and connected into this planter.
Straight into the planter,
Yeah.
yep. And straight into the planter, and it basically does everything for you.
Yep.
You don't even need to use the water that's in that planter to water your plants. The way it's set up, it does it all for you.
So is this in a new build?
No,
it
was a project that we did where we asked people if they would like to be involved, and on this occasion Scottish Water installed them, and the residents agreed that we could monitor it and see what the difference was, and it was all about the runoff from the roofs. So basically it's a 2 or 3 year project where we go back and we'll monitor how much water has been saved and how it's helped, because the particular, and it was weird because the area that floods there was actually the neighbourhood down the road. It wasn't where they were planted, but it was the neighbourhood down the road. And the fact that we got so many people involved in that, and the community got really into it. So that's really exciting, and it will become things that new build developers might start to take into their plans with the planning. I think that's the hope. So just taking it back to really simple things, simple questions that when we're out and about engaging with customers, that they ask us, things like, well, surely more rain's a good thing.
That's a tough one to answer, Georgie, because yes, more rain is a good thing, but it's not always that we get it in the right areas. So actually what we need to try and do is, we're not going to, you can never solve flooding. You will never stop flooding. But what we can do is work together with other stakeholders and local communities to understand where the best place to hold that water back is, to let it get back into the sewer while not impacting the access or entrance or exit to a school or a doctor's surgery or a road. So where can we store that water? If there is nowhere else for it to go, can we store it in a slightly different way or in a different place to minimise the impact that has on people, place and communities before it goes back to the combined sewer?
The weather is changing. It's getting worse. We have long dry periods, but we have also really, really extreme rainfall. The second thing that I'm getting is that it's not just a one simple fix. Mm-hmm. That there are lots of different things that we've got to do here, and it's big organisations like Scottish Water and local authorities. They've got to do their bit with the big picture stuff, but we've also, as individuals with gardens, we've got to play our part as well. And the last thing, again, which I think's come over really strongly, is it's not about perfection here. It's just about we can each do one or two little things, but everybody's actions are important on this. Would you say that that's a fair summing up of Scotland's weather and its impact on us today?
100%.
I would say so, Georgie. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've all got to take our. It's easy to pass it off to you big companies and whatnot, but it's not. We've all got to take a collective responsibility. And as you say, it's just little steps that can make a massive difference.
Right.
I think one of the things that you maybe can take away today is you don't need to cut your grass every week.
Huge thanks to both of you for coming today. It's been absolutely great chatting to you, and I think I think there's so much that we can all take away and we can all do from that. And the rain's not going anywhere in Scotland. It really isn't. It's either taps off or tipping it down, and taps off is a whole other podcast episode, so it'll be coming to you soon. So thanks for listening to Drip Feed Water Talk straight from the source. Like and subscribe for more.